Good Friday afternoon to you. Hope your weekend's off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. A little later in the show, we'll be joined by the Plain Dealer's Tim Bielik. We'll talk a little Browns with Tim, as well as break down some of those prospects the Cavs are looking at with the third pick in the NBA draft. We're going to start by talking Browns, and it's been a topic everybody's been talking about recently. Baker Mayfield and the contract for the Browns. Here's what Colin Cowherd had to say about paying Baker Mayfield.
Teams that historically lose, it's usually bad ownership. Cleveland does not have great ownership. Their owner's impatient. And so Baker gives them a playoff win, and it would be very easy for Cleveland to go, he likes us. Let's give him a 10-year deal. I think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are such smart guys, coach GM, they'll be able to hold off this impatient, impulsive owner. All you got to do is hold him off for a year. Because Baker last year, the number one running game and the number one offensive line and the head coach of the year, he had 26 TDs, 8 picks, 3,500 yards, completed 63% of his throws. It was okay. Wasn't like his first year. It was okay. It doesn't look like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes to me. It's okay. Goff got signed early. How'd it work? Carson Wentz got signed early. How'd it work?
Colin Cowherd from FS1's The Herd. Let's welcome in the D-man, Dennis Manoloff. Dennis, doing double duty tonight, pre- and post-game with the Indians over on WTM. Let's talk a little bit about Colin Cowherd. What do you make about that argument with Baker Mayfield?
Well, Colin Cowherd's always good for Cleveland sports-related talk, especially when he weighs in on the Bake Show. But I don't disagree with a lot of his points. I mean, I don't think the Browns are in any rush to sign Baker. In other words, I think this season could very well play itself out before anything happens. I don't think Mayfield and his reps are in any rush necessarily. I've talked about this with you on previous shows, Dave. I think the agents of Baker or his representatives, as well as those of Josh Allen of the Bills and Lamar Jackson of the Ravens, are all looking at each other going, all right, who's going to sign first? Who's going to sign the extension first? Because invariably, the first guy gets the least amount. So, they're all kind of playing a game of chicken, if you will, waiting to see what's going to happen. And, I saw Pro Football Focus, which is gospel for the Browns, and, they had projected what the three guys were going to get. 4 years at 160, anywhere from 160 to 163 or 4. I'm not so sure it's going to be that tightly bunched amongst the three. I'm wondering if one of them is going to get a significant amount more, and that's why they're all waiting on each other to go first. But from the franchise's perspective, from the team's perspective, there's no hurry. And here's the other thing, Dave. Extenuating circumstances with the Browns, namely Nick Chubb. All right, as far as I know, the Ravens and the Bills don't have a transcendent running back along the lines of Nick Chubb, and a guy who is as valuable to his team as Chubb is to the Browns. Therefore, the Browns have that extra set of circumstances. They've got to figure out how much are they willing to pay Nick Chubb, and that's a factor in this equation.
Well, the flip side of it is the quarterbacks, you don't want to get paid to the point that you can't get the surrounding cast around you that you need to continue to be successful. That would be just a word of caution. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Absolutely. And the fact is that Chubb is part of that supporting cast. He is one of the reasons why Baker Mayfield had such a productive 2020. The running game led by Chubb, and of course Kareem Hunt helped out too, but that running game was important. I wouldn't say that Baker Mayfield, his success hinged on the running game, because that would be, saying that he's not quite as good as his numbers last year, and I don't want to cheat him out of that. But he definitely benefited, and that's where you hear Cowherd talking about the line being good, the running game being good, the coaching staff being competent. Yeah, they all help Baker, and that's why if I'm the Browns, I am willing to wait and see for a little while longer because I know I'm going to have to pay Baker anyway. I'd be willing to pay him more if I saw him perform spectacularly well in 2021.
Yeah, and I would agree. And the perfect example of a quarterback who got paid and they couldn't put anything around him is Joe Flacco. So we'll move on from that. So CBS Sports HQ, Jonathan Jones, talking about Baker's agent coming out and talking, about the deal and being close to it.
I saw the agent's comments, and I got to say it was a little unusual, Chris, because normally when you are in negotiations, if things are somewhat down the line, you don't go out into the media and talk about the negotiations. You just kind of get it done. And with him talking to a local Cleveland reporter, it seemed to me, and in talking with folks around the league, it seemed to them as well, that this was sort of a leverage play. Go ahead and try to get the fans on your side. Try to get the public on your side. Hey, we're close, so if something doesn't get done, well, just know we were close. We did our job.
So, D-Man, that's the agent coming out and saying we did our job, and Jonathan Jones saying you don't usually see that he might be covering his behind being the agents. What do you make of that?
I mean, have you ever heard of Drew Rosenhaus? I mean, Drew Rosenhaus negotiates through the media all the time, okay? He's one of a number of them. So I disagree that agents I disagree with the premise that agents don't negotiate through the media or don't let it out through the media. It does seem sort of counterintuitive that Baker would say after mandatory mini that he's not worried about the extension and it's not in his mind. All he wants to do is win. And then his agent comes out and discusses it. But to me, it all amounts to saber rattling when it's coming from the agents. They're just poking and prodding and deemed negotiate. It could be termed negotiating through the media, but to me, it's more about just letting people know that there's potentially talks going on, and yeah, they want to make sure they're covering themselves if something falls through. But I tend to believe what Baker said at mandatory mini, which is he isn't worried about it, and I think the bigger concern from Mayfield's camp, I'm going to stick with this as long as we have these shows, Dave, as long as you'll have me on these shows, I'm sticking by my story. All three of those guys are looking at each other. And so Baker's like, listen, I'm in no rush to be the first of the three to sign.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that, and it certainly makes sense. All right, NFL.com came out with the most complete NFL teams heading into 2021. Most complete team, Cleveland Browns. Number 2, Bucks. 3, the Chiefs. 4, the Chargers. 5, the Bills. So the note they made about the Browns, D-Man, fix your special teams. They said they're ranking them high and their special teams are a mess.
Well, first of all, pump the brakes on the most complete team being the Cleveland Browns. I mean, you know what, Dave, what have I always said about NFL's calendars? The offseason's too long. I wish these players were somehow able to play 25, 26 games in a year. I know it's impossible to wrap your brain around. I would never wish injuries on any of these guys making them play that many games. 17 is going to be hard enough. But I just say pump the brakes because the Chiefs are a fantastic team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers return basically everybody, and they're the defending Super Bowl champ. The Buffalo Bills, to me, are better than the Cleveland Browns at this moment. So there's 3 teams right there. And you know what? I'm going to toss in the Ravens, too. The Browns haven't proven anything to me vis-a-vis the Baltimore Ravens in the Baker Mayfield era. until and unless when the Browns are sitting atop the AFC North, when they're beating the Ravens twice and the Ravens are below them in the division, then I'll sit there and go, all right, the Ravens are definitively below the Browns. But until then, I'm going to put the Ravens above the Browns too. So Ravens, Chiefs, Buccaneers, Bills, starting with the Bucs. So if I had to rank them, I'd go Buccaneers, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. Those 4 teams, I don't care if you use the word complete, they're better than the Browns right off the rip. And as far as the special teams, I think, talking about the Browns special teams, Jamie Gillen, I'm guessing, I don't have sourcing on this, but I'm guessing he was playing or he was punting with an injury. And it just felt like he wasn't himself. If he's completely healthy, he gets back to doing Jamie Gillen things, and the punting game is much better. And we'll see about the kicking game, which varies from year to year.
The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, one of the national pundits thinks the Browns have one of the top 4 guys that's going to star as a new face in a new place. We'll tell you who it is. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. NFL Network was naming 4 guys that will shine as stars with their new teams. Cynthia Friedland from NFL Network chose one of the Browns' new defensive players.
Okay, well, as a Detroit fan, I maybe not a Detroit fan anymore because of the Stafford departure. I love that. But someone who left the Rams, John Johnson, he's a huge ad for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm not just trying to kiss up to D. Hall here, picking a defensive back, but ultimately, when I look to see what was missing from this team that got a ton better this season, this past season, and this offseason, it was the defense. It was really stopping those deep threats. And John Johnson was a key in this Rams defense that because Jalen Ramsey's such a big name and, of course, Aaron Donald up front, John Johnson has a big impact. He's going to be missed. And the Cleveland Browns, they got a good one. So this is going to be a situation where they could take them up over the edge, maybe winning deeper into January, maybe winning that division. It's really up for grabs between them and the Ravens, and great offseason moves like John Johnson are the reason why they could have just kind of leapfrogged the Ravens.
So, Dina, that's Anthony Friedland, an analytics expert who thinks John Johnson is exactly what the Browns defense needs. What do you make of that?
I mean, sign me up for John Johnson III as part of, as the leader of that safety core. After what we watched last year with the Indians ravaging that room, now you've got a chance for a Johnson, Harrison, Delpit back three, if you will, a safety core with those three guys. I can't wait, as somebody who wants to see the Browns succeed. Johnson seems like the total package, a guy who can direct traffic, a great ball skills guy, highly intelligent, physical, gamer, loves to be here from what we hear. So I can't wait. And, I would add for the Browns, on the Browns side of it, obviously, Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, Clowney's a guy who, if he can stay healthy, it'll be something to see, opposite of Myles Garrett. And, obviously, Jadeveon Clowney has a lot to prove still. He's not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. So hopefully the Browns get the best possible Clowney this year. And as a bookend to Myles, I would say he's one of those guys that could definitely make a huge impact as far as new faces, new places, old faces. Let me throw this in, Dave, too. A team that I didn't mention in the previous segment, and talking about guys moving from one team to the next, Carson Wentz from the Eagles to the Colts. The Colts are, in my mind, an undervalued team. The way when you hear the hype machines in the offseason, I think the Colts have a chance to be really good, because I believe that Carson Wentz will resuscitate his career under Frank Reich. So there is a guy talking about, moving, changing addresses, who could really carry the Colts to new heights if he can regain his form.
So we're going to switch our focus a little bit. Bleacher Report has 10 rookies who already look like draft day steals. On that list is the Browns' selection of Tommy Togiai.
I mean, how do they know? How do they know? I don't understand how you could possibly know about a draft day steal when nobody has played a down in a game that counts in the NFL. I mean, Togiai, okay, I can't wait to see what he can do. I would like to think that the Joker, my guy, the Joker, JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he potentially could be a steal of the highest order, given that he fell out of the first round and the Browns took him in the second round in the 50s. So hopefully Joker has got his little list out. And I know he said, I think he said, and that doesn't bother him, all that other stuff. Like, he's not taking a list or making a list and checking it twice who was taken in front of him. I wish that he would, but I think he said his motivation comes from within. But the Joker's a guy I would think could be a steal.
All right, so we are going to go to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one deals with the Browns and roster construction.
Yeah, hello, this is Nick from Akron. After doing some math, I figured there's probably 12 to 14 positions open on this team, and most of them are backups. So I was wondering if you guys would talk about how many people or the depth of each position that you think we're going to carry throughout the season, like how many defensive tackles and defensive ends. And that would be, appreciate that big time, kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at. Thanks, guys. Thanks for everything you do.
All right, so D-Man, we can start. What you think it might look like as far as, with all the versatility, are there areas you think the Browns keep more guys of, secondary, linebackers? What do you think the roster construction looks like?
Well, I mean, and the voice of Truth and Reason caller was talking about depth being a potential issue for the Browns. Is that correct? Because I was having a little trouble hearing it.
Just he wanted to know where we thought the position structure was. He thinks there's only about 11 or 12 spots up for grab, and what positions you think they'll keep more of, what positions they'll keep fewer of.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if I'm the Browns, I'm just looking at as many cornerbacks as I possibly can because I have to I have to hedge against Denzel's availability and Greedy Williams' availability. And, obviously you bring in Newsome in the draft, first-round pick. That's good. You've got Hill already coming in from the Rams. But you can never have enough corners in today's NFL, specifically game one of the regular season when Patrick Mahomes is doing his thing against you in Arrowhead. The linebacking core, will be interested to see how that shakes out in Joe Woods' schemes. But, I think – and then interior defensive line, I know Togiai is part of that, but Malik Jackson, I assume, is going to be good there. They've got some other returnees. So I think at each level of the defense, you could stand to have more depth. But here's the issue about depth, though. You never really know if you have it until somebody is injured. You really can't tell, okay, how good are the backups? Because, and they might be a veteran with a name that come in to back up, but you still don't know how good they are until they actually replace somebody that you really needed.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is I think it's going to be, I think there may be a one or two less linebackers because they're only going to play two a lot of times. They'll play three some. I think you might see more safeties. I think it's going to be awfully tough for like a Dearness Johnson to stick because I think you're probably looking at Felton, Chubb, Hunt, and maybe a fullback. Wide receiver, it's going to be really tough. You're going to have to make some tough decisions in that wide receiving core as well.
Yeah. In terms of position groups that are pretty darn locked down, the offensive line from left to right, you always need O-line depth, but clearly the Browns have a front five that is pretty darn good if it stays healthy. The Bake Show and Keenum, they got quarterback covered. The wide receivers, as you said, Beckham comes back with Landry and Hollywood Higgins and Peoples-Jones. So those first four are going to be pretty tough to crack. I mean, Anthony Schwartz, a developmental guy, maybe a special sub-package type guy because of his blazing speed. Running backs, Chubb and Hunt, difficult to crack that. And then, I'm looking at the D-line. I mean, edges is going to be tough. Linebackers, like you said, if Woods is predominantly a 4-2-5 situation, then you obviously have a limited number of linebackers you can go to.
The D-man, Dennis Manoloff, and I can step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll take a look at over-under win totals for the Browns. And are you going over or are you going under? Sports4CLE will be right back.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
COVID-19 has changed how we show up and show out with our family. Now it's time to take the first step that lets us get back to talking smack with a side of mac and cheese. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts. As COVID-19 vaccines become available, you may have questions. Should I get it? Is it safe?
Should I wait?
It's smart to question. Now, get the facts at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. We continue talking Browns football. So Sports Grid's the morning after has an interesting take. Browns win total 10.5. Are they going over or are they going under? Take a listen.
So, like I said, very rarely do I make bets this early, but this was a really good price that was hung out here in Vegas, and so I took it. Now, this is a Browns team that I bet against 2 years ago, took their season win total under, and now we're seeing the same hype train yet again. I'm not a Baker believer, and no disrespect to this Browns team, they're absolutely loaded with talent. But as we've seen before, sometimes talent doesn't always play well together, and it doesn't always translate on or off the field. Now, this is a Browns team. They're going to be in a gauntlet yet again, as they are every single year, and playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing the Baltimore Ravens, Ariel's beloved team. And look, Joe Burrow's going to be back. We'll see if the Bengals can't throw a wrench into the mix and maybe get one at home. This is just a Browns team that I'm not a big believer on. There's a couple other season win totals that I have circled that I'm kind of just, as I mentioned, just waiting to see if we can see a better price.
I'm not sure what she bet, but I think she just lost some money, D-Man. 10.5 if you're going under with the Browns. I don't like that bet even a little.
Well, and did she say exactly what her win total was for the Browns?
She just said she was under. Said it was under.
Yeah,
She's not buying the hype train like 2 years ago.
Well, you know what? I'm a little nervous about the hype train. I've made that clear. But if her under 10.5 is 10, then she and I are not that far off, because when I played the schedule game several times over the first 5 or 6 days post schedule release, I kept landing on 11-6. So unless something dramatic happens between now and the start of the season, which is entirely possible given the injury situation that can occur at any point in NFL training, I'm going to stick with 11-6. I have to catch myself, Dave. It's so weird to say 11-6. Oh, wait, that adds up to 17. So maybe she and I aren't that far off. As for the gauntlet of the division, yeah, there's no question the Ravens are good, and the Steelers might have one last gasp in them with Roethlisberger. But when I played the scheduled game, I factored in losses to the Ravens and the Steelers. I had the Browns splitting the season series with each of those teams, and I had them losing to the Chiefs in the opener, and still had them winning 11 games. So I don't think it's unreasonable to say 11-6.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the minimum, the starting point that I would stay is 11-6, unless there's some unforeseen injuries, even worse than they had last year. All right, Bleacher Report is predicting every NFL team's breakout player for the season. For the Browns, they go with wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones. What do you make of that one?
Listen, I love Donovan Peoples-Jones. I really do, okay? I said when he was drafted that he had the potential to be a steal, given that pretty much everybody was taken in front of him in that draft. But if he's the breakout player, then presumably maybe number 3, Rashard Higgins isn't doing what he's supposed to do, or number 2, Landry's not doing what he's supposed to do, or OBJ's not doing what he's supposed to do as the lead dog. So I'm a little nervous saying that a number 4 receiver is going to be a breakout. If he is, and everybody else is playing well, then we got ourselves one of the most prolific offenses in the history of the NFL, with the Baker Show dealing. But I just got to, I've got to see what the first 3 receivers do before I think Peoples-Jones is going to be a breakout guy.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to move on. John Ledyard from the Pewter Report, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers website, ranked the top wide receivers in the NFL. Devontae Adams 1, DeAndre Hopkins 2, Tyreek Hill number 3. I think that's a little high for him, but be that as it may. They had Odell Beckham Jr. ranked 21, Jarvis Landry 29. So both of them in the top 30. Both very good wide receivers, but not that elite or a game-breaking type. So it's kind of the third tier. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, Dave, I'd like to know who is, 4 down to Odell, but, I can hazard a guess on a few of them. But Adams, to me, is the best receiver in the NFL. And so I don't disagree there. Will he continue to put up phenomenal numbers if A-Rod is not the quarterback of the Packers in 2021? We'll see. But something tells me he will at least get close to it because he's that good. He's transcendent. And, of course, DeAndre Hopkins is amazing, and over there in Arizona with Kyler Murray doing his thing. As far as where Odell is, I got to see it, first. I've got to see what Odell does post-major knee surgery before I think he's automatically back in the top 10. I also have to see how he integrates with the Kevin Stefanski, Alex Van Pelt system and how he does with Baker this year. Jarvis, love Jarvis. One of my favorite players to ever wear a Browns uniform. The ultimate gamer. You win with guys like Jarvis Landry. But I've never looked at him as an elite superstar type receiver. He's a very good receiver, but I don't know that he's in that star category. He's just not a transcendent receiver, but that is by no means me dogging Jarvis. You will not find a bigger fan of Jarvis Landry than I am.
Yeah. And this, I would say, Jarvis Landry is the type of receiver that all good teams seem to have. A guy that blocks, does a lot of the the wide receiver dirty work. The D-man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are going to step aside. Take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will hear from Kareem Hunt talking about Nick Chubb and trying to get that signed. We'll also take a look at the Steelers and some things happening with Pittsburgh's roster. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football. Kareem Hunt was at his alma mater, Willoughby South High School, for a football camp. While he was out there, he was asked and talked about the Browns getting a deal done with Nick Chubb.
Please pay that man. That man, he's a freak of nature, and he's a brother to me, and I love what he does on and off the field, man. Just a great person and teammate.
So, D-Man, there you have it. Please pay the man is what Kareem Hunt says in reference to a long-term deal for Nick Chubb. What do you make of it?
Easy for Kareem Hunt to spend Jimmy Haslam's money and spend it in a salary cap situation. That's the issue for Andrew Berry. You know that general manager Andrew Berry would love to sign Nick Chubb to monster money, and it very well might. But he's got a salary cap to consider. He's already got miles on a the Bake Show, and we mentioned at the top of this show how Mayfield and Chubb might be interconnected, even though the higher ups will say, "Oh no, they're separate entity." But when you're in a salary cap situation with those inherent restrictions, it's hard not to have contracts, cross-pollinate, if you will. If I'm Nick Chubb, I am in a hurry to sign. Unlike Mayfield, who says, "Oh, you know what? I'm not worried about it," because of the nature of the position. The quarterbacks, they'll get paid on an average day. The running backs these days, they only get paid on select days, and so if I'm Chubb, I am definitely trying to get signed as soon as I can. And the other thing too, it's not just the de-emphasis of the running back in today's NFL, it's the shelf life. I mean, you look at running backs, they lose their explosion, they lose their greatness a lot of the time relatively early. By the time you hit your late 20s as a running back, you're old news. So the time for Chubb to get his cash is now. Now, he would never talk that way. He would instruct his reps not to talk that way. All he wants to do is win. He's the ultimate gamer. We know that. But behind the scenes, if I'm Nick Chubb and I'm a running back and I'm really, really, really good, one of the top 3 in the NFL, I'm telling my reps, get something done soon.
And get a lot of it up front. So let me ask you this. Do you think any of these contract extensions, I'm talking Chubb, Mayfield, Ward, we'll throw Wyatt Teller in there, do any of them get done before training camp, which starts really late in July? It's like the 27th, 28th, something like that of July.
Yeah, I think I think the best chance of one getting done is Nick Chubb because of the urgency at the running back position. And I think you'll have a more willing partner there if you're the Browns and you've got something to propose to Chubb and his people. They would be more willing to sign, in my opinion. Not hastily signing, not like, "Oh, please, yeah, we'll take whatever you offer." No, I'm not saying there wouldn't be a back and forth, but I think it would be easier to sign Chubb than it would be Mayfield, especially if Allen and Jackson do not sign extensions, or one of the other does not sign, because to me, they all want a framework. They all want a context. Okay, well, what are the other guys going to get? That's what they're worried about. And if neither one of those two signs, I don't think Baker signs. Therefore, I think Chubb goes first. Denzel Ward is going to have to wait. We all like Denzel too. I mean, we like a lot of guys on the Browns. And we know Denzel's very talented, but to me, there is absolutely no hurry to sign Denzel Ward because his durability is a question. 13 games played in his first 3 years. If I'm the Browns, this is a show-me year for Ward. He's got to show me 16 games at least, maybe 17 if I desperately need a 17th. I need to see that before I sign him.
All right, before we go, let's take a look at this. Tom Pelissero tweets out the news yesterday. David DeCastro, a guard, released from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that means the Steelers, who didn't have a run game last year, they drafted a running back. They've got a quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger who can't move, basically. They're going to now have four of their 5 offensive linemen are going to be new. And the guy who's staying is switching from the left to the right. He's switching positions. That's a mess waiting to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, Dave, although I did check during the break, it looks like the Steelers did sign Trey Turner, or are about to sign Trey Turner, the 5-time Pro Bowler. He used to play for the Panthers. That's when he was great, to essentially replace DeCastro. Turner comes from the Chargers. And so that, that'll definitely help the Steelers. The DeCastro transaction was very interesting. It seemed like it was out of the blue, and maybe it has something to do with a non-football injury, perhaps. And DeCastro is contemplating retirement anyway, so we'll see if he signs elsewhere. But it's unfortunate for Browns fans that a guy the caliber of Trey Turner is apparently going to replace DeCastro, because it doesn't feel like that much of a hole. Although Turner was injured last year with a variety of injuries. But yeah, the Steelers, it's no secret. Their O-line is patchwork at this point and has lost a lot of its luster. You've got Ben Roethlisberger, who's not exactly elusive, setting up in the pocket behind this line. So it's going to be especially important for whoever the starters are to protect a stationary quarterback. But you know what? That's fine. The Steelers can have that concern. I don't give a damn.
D-Man, Dennis Manoloff. You can hear him tonight on WTAM Indians pre and post, WTAM 1100 AM. D-Man, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Dave Bacon, thank you so much for having me on.
All right, the D-Man, again, you can listen to him tonight. Indians pre and post, 1100 AM WTAM. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Tim Bielik, plain dealer, beat reporter, will talk to us. We'll talk a little Browns. We'll get into a little Cavs with Tim. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
Sports for CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football. Chris Sims, Pro Football Talk, ranked the top 30 quarterbacks in the NFL. Baker Mayfield not quite inside the top 10.
Why 13 for Baker Mayfield?
Because there's so many. There's good quarterbacks. I mean, you'll see the top 10. It's hard. When you see the top 10, tell me who you want me to kick out to put Baker Mayfield in there.
Listen,
I know it's brutal.
He's a top 10 quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback. You got 20 top 10 quarterbacks.
I know.
When it's time to list them, it gets difficult.
It gets difficult, 100%. And it was tough. But man, an unbelievable leap I mean, what a year he had last year. And I think like the one thing that just comes to my mind with Baker Mayfield, grip it and rip it. Man, there are so many, Mike, high-level, aggressive, downfield throws that Baker Mayfield made all year long, especially the second half of the year. You know, the first half of the year was good. He was kind of learning his way in the offense. The second part of the year, he started to carry the offense just as much as it carried him.
Let's bring in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. So what do you make of it? Baker Mayfield at 13, Tim.
I think it's an interesting place for him. Obviously, there's room to grow. We know that he's far from a finished product, and we really haven't seen him put together a complete season yet. I'm looking at the list right now as well. Maybe a little surprised that guys like Ryan Tannehill and Justin Herbert are ahead of him. Surprised that Kyler Murray is that far ahead of him. But I think Mayfield certainly has potential to get to the top 10. It just comes down to, again, putting the complete season together. Yet we saw him have a great second half of the season. We saw him have a very good postseason. But the numbers really they don't really tell the whole story. I think, again, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last season. Ideally, you'd probably want much bigger numbers if you want to put a quarterback in the top 10.
The flip side of it is his second year in a system, you would expect him to kind of grow and get even a little bit better.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's nothing that you can't understate just how important that is, that there's all that continuity there, not just the fact that he's in that same system for the second year in a row, but he's got all of his weapons back. He's got Odell back and healthy. I mean, you look at the treadmill video, I mean, you cannot tell me that that's a guy 6-7 months removed from ACL surgery. That's absolutely amazing. We know about the chemistry he has with Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, by a lot of reports in minicamps, looking really good. You got Anthony Schwartz as a deep threat. You got the tight ends back. You got your top 2 running backs. There's no reason he shouldn't really improve on these numbers this coming season.
Yeah, and you know the other thing is offensive line, all 5 of them back, all 5 of the starters in the same spot. So really good things ahead, it appears, for Baker Mayfield. Now, Dog Pound Daily came out with 3 bold predictions for Baker Mayfield. 3, he will throw for over 4,000 yards and lead the AFC North in passing. What do you think about that one?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I might not buy it just because I believe that obviously as much as they would want to improve the passing game and rely on him more, with good reason, of course, with Baker being into the system second year, with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt there in the backfield as options, I don't know if 4,000 is going to happen for sure. I'm not ruling it out. It could certainly happen. And as far as the AFC North passing yards leader, I'm kind of leaning more towards the idea of it being Joe Burrow. Because, I mean, he put up great numbers last year when he was healthy. You add Jamar Chase into a receiving corps that's got a steady veteran, Tyler Boyd, and a guy in T. Higgins who looked really good as a rookie. I expect, with the defensive questions they have there, I expect Cincinnati's going to air it out, and Burrow is probably going to finish, in my mind, top in the division in terms of yards.
That's fair. He'll probably get some garbage time passing yardage as well. 2, he will throw fewer interceptions this year than he did last, being Baker Mayfield. And I think, was it 8 that he threw last year, I believe?
I think so, yeah. It's hard to throw fewer than 8, especially considering you got a 17th game. And we know just the random nature sometimes of the NFL. All it takes is one deflection off what seems like a great pass, and then it becomes an interception. We saw that in the wild card game with the Porter Gustin interception. Those things are going to happen. You're going to have weird, fluky bounces. You're going to have, receivers maybe not be on the same page on a play, a broken play or whatever. Or just, a situation where you have a guy that maybe try to do too much in a certain situation if the team's down a lot. So I kind of think that's not going to happen, unfortunately, for Browns fans. I think he's still going to put up very good numbers, but going below 8 interceptions is a lot to ask for any quarterback. I mean, even Tom Brady might throw more than 8 interceptions. It's just the nature of the NFL.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to agree with that one. I think a second year in the system, he'll understand it a little better, and a lot of those interceptions came early in the year, and I think you'll see more of what you saw late in the year. All right, number 1. He will throw at least 30 touchdown passes, being Baker Mayfield. What do you think of that one, Tim?
Yeah, I think he's gonna do it. I'm pretty convinced of that. I mean, I talked about the receiving core, how it's all pretty much intact. And we also know Baker is one of the better red zone quarterbacks in football. He's just so accurate down inside the 20. You got 3 quality tight ends as options. I expect Harrison Bryant will be better in his second season. I think David Njoku, based on what he showed in the Chiefs game, still has plenty of upward mobility to go. He's playing for a contract. I think he's going to be a guy you look to a lot in the red zone. And of course, you have all those receivers back there. We saw Kareem Hunt's ability as the pass catcher, and who knows, maybe there's another trick play Kevin Stefanski has in store where Baker's going to throw another touchdown to an offensive lineman. So he threw 26 last season. I know obviously he had the struggles early on. He really picked it up towards the end of the year. I think with the continuity, he should be well on pace to get past 30.
And just as point of reference, 30 touchdown passes in a season is the Browns franchise record, done by Brian Sipe back in 1980. Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we're going to shift our focus. We'll talk Cavs and what they will do with that third pick. We'll take a look at some of the names being thrown around who Tim likes, and he will break down some of those prospects. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back talking NBA draft. Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to talk Cavs basketball. Cavs end up with the third pick in the NBA draft, moved up a couple spots in the lottery. One of the guys that everybody thinks could be there for the taking at number 3, Jalen Green. Stephen A. Smith has these impressions of Jalen Green.
Let me get back to this kid, Jalen Green here. You're one of those rare stars coming out of high school where it's clear that you're destined for the NBA. You could go to college, you could play 1 year before coming into the NBA. You go to the G League for 1 year. You develop your skills, you learn the NBA game. In Jalen Green's case, it will be the 2021 NBA draft, and he's eligible for any team to take him in whatever position they want to take him at, while at the same time being in that developmental league, learning an NBA system, while still getting his education paid for if he so chooses to do it.
So let's bring back in Tim Bielik. Tim, I know you've studied these guys. What do you make of Stephen A. Smith's impressions of Jalen Green?
It's kind of in line with kind of where I'm feeling with Green. I looked at, outside of Cade Cunningham, I thought Green was the best fit for the Cavs. And I mean, if it were up to me, obviously I'm not Kobe Altman, but if he's there at 3, for me, that's a pretty easy pick. And I mean, I don't think you can say enough about just the experience he got playing in the G League. I mean, we forget a long time ago that these high school kids would have gone straight to the NBA, and who knows what that would have done for the 2020 draft if guys like Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Cade Cunningham came into the NBA right away, but instead they go to the G League. Brian Shaw, of course, being the head coach. I believe Jarrett Jack was on that Ignite team. You can't say enough just for, the experience guys like that get playing against men where, your athleticism is not going to be enough. You have to develop some basketball savvy. You have to showcase your skills, and you have to really grow them. And I think that's where Jalen Green really shines, in my opinion, because he's got so many tools. He's not just an athlete, but he can score. He can do it from the perimeter. He's got some defensive ability that I think will get better as he kind of fills out his body.
A young guy, too, obviously, just a year out of high school, played in the G League, as you mentioned. There's some people that discount the G League for the guys that go right there from high school have said, yeah, they're not playing against NBA guys. I think the point they're missing, though, is you're not playing against NBA guys if you go to one of the major college programs either.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in some ways the G League is kind of that bridge between the Euro League and the NBA. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. You know, guys that could probably go to Europe and dominate, or guys that could get in the NBA, you know, be kind of bench guys for a season. That's kind of what the G League is. And I think it was great for some of these guys to get that experience. Jalen Green obviously getting a chance to really see, you know, how he stacks up against those guys. And we saw, I think, last year what experience playing against pros did for a guy like LaMelo Ball. I thought, you know, I personally was higher on that idea that, you know, he could have success because he played against men in the NBL in Australia. Certainly panned out. I mean, he won Rookie of the Year. He looked tremendous right from the start, and there's no reason to think Jalen Green shouldn't have a similar transition going from the G League to the NBA.
So Evan Mobley's another guy. Some people think he will be gone, that the Rockets will take him at 2. What do you see? I know you've done some work on both of these, on all of these guys actually, but tell me about Evan Mobley, what you like about him and what he profiles as.
Well, they always say you can't teach size, and Evan Mobley is a 7-footer, but in the different mold than we're always used to. We were used to talking about the 7-footers as guys like Shaq, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning. This guy is a 7-footer, more in the form of a Chris Bosh, a guy who's got a great offensive game. He handles so much better than a guy who's 7 foot should. He does need to add some weight. I think he does need to continue to develop his perimeter shot. But the fact that he has those tools available, the fact that he can hit the 3 pretty often, that he's got a shot blocking repertoire, that he can really get his own shot in the paint and really create opportunities out there is just absolutely tremendous. He's got a lot of fluidity to his game, stuff you don't normally see from a big. And when it comes to a fit with the Cavs, I know it can be clunky with him and Jared Allen. You don't really see 2 7-footers on the court together, but I think with Mobley's offensive game and the way he plays, it could be a very interesting fit.
What do you make of Jalen Suggs, kid from Gonzaga?
Yeah, he's, of the 3, I think it's the most complicated fit when it comes to the Cavaliers. I mean, there's no question Jalen Suggs is an outstanding prospect. I mean, there's Chauncey Billups comparisons, Brandon Roy comparisons. We all remember, we forget how good Brandon Roy was before the injuries really kind of shut him down and ended his career early. But, you know, there's a lot to love about Suggs. He's a very good playmaker. He's athletic. He plays very good defense. I'm not sure if that would be the position I would go to unless you really believe he could play the off guard and be a secondary playmaker with Darius Garland, because I think with the leap he took in 2020, 2021 as a point guard, getting almost 7 assists a game, maybe that takes the need for point guard away. But if you're looking for a 2 guard that has the ability to do a lot of different things and to be a quality defensive player to go along with Isaac Okoro, who showed he can defend pretty well as well, you've got the makings of an interesting backcourt there.
Last thing I'll ask you quickly, a sleeper pick at number 3, somebody that could come out of the woodwork as they go through this process that you wouldn't be completely surprised if the Cavs take it 3.
Well, I'll kind of say this. I'll preface this a little bit. I feel like I'd be shocked if the pick wasn't one of the 3 guys I mentioned, but if there was another guy kind of outside those top 3 for me, it's Jonathan Kuminga, also from the G League. You know, he played alongside Jalen Green. He didn't exactly put up the kind of numbers and impress the way that Green did with G League Ignite, but there is so much to like about Jonathan Kuminga. If the Cavs were picking top 5 and they were at the 5th pick and they took Kuminga, I think fans would have been excited about that. I think he's got so many tools. He's unbelievably athletic. I think he's got a shot that's in progress and getting there. And again, like I said about Green, you can't say enough for the fact that these guys got experience playing in the G League for a handful of games. They got NBA coaching. They played with former NBA players. And the things that Kuminga has, and yeah, he has to work on shooting ability. So do a lot of guys, but you cannot teach the athletic ability he has.
Tim Bielik, reporter for The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Appreciate the time and the insight. Great stuff as always, Tim. Thanks very much.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Again, Tim Bielik, you can read him in The Plain Dealer as well as on cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. Scheduled guest Monday, Doug Lesmerises, columnist from The Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Have a great weekend. We will see you Monday, everyone.